And I guess question number one today is Justice Hathaway is going to step down from the Michigan Supreme Court.
Yeah, she said she's going to retire as of January 21, but of course retire amid pressure. You know, we've got the U.S. attorney breathing down her neck about some property that she moved pretty questionably among her stepchildren. And then we've got the Judicial Tenure Commission that was continuing the investigation into those transactions and questioning what she was doing. They came down with a report yesterday. And, you know, Hathaway and her attorney were kind of questioning, you know, she's going to step down. Isn't this kicking someone when they were down? But from my understanding, they still didn't know if Justice Hathaway was going to sit in oral arguments later this week. They didn't know if she was going to walk to the State of the State and be a part of that. And it appears that she's not going to right now. I don't think we're going to see her again unless you run into her on the street.
To put it simply, she wanted to give a house back to the bank, right?
Yeah, she wanted to do a short sale, and of course a short sale is when the bank takes a loss, right? Because you're underwater on your mortgage, and you know people, listeners have heard about this or have gone through this themselves, and basically the bank took a $600,000 loss. She owed $1.4 million, and then was able to sell it for around $800,000, or the bank was able to. But in order to do that, you have to cry poor. You have to prove that you don't have any assets. Well, she had assets. She had a couple of homes. She just moved them into the names of her stepchildren. And then after the short sale was complete, the stepchildren gave them the property back, her and her husband. And
somebody gave her really bad advice, don't you think?
Well, the thing is, though, is she's a real estate agent herself, and she took a class in how to do short sales with the state. So it's not like she was a dummy on this. Maybe she thought she could get away with it, and maybe the ordinary, everyday person could have. But when you're a justice of the Supreme Court and you're under a microscope,
such an obvious paper trail, though, isn't there?
Well, yeah, and she's in a community in the Grosse Pointes where neighbors look at neighbors and everybody's into everybody's business, and I really think that's how that came about with the TV report and somebody tipping off somebody.
So what happens when she retires? We have an empty seat. Is it appointed, elected? Yes. How does it work?
Yeah, Governor Rick Snyder will get that appointment and make the majority on the Supreme Court, a 5-2 majority for the Republicans. There is no confirmation or anything of that nature.
Wow.
So the governor appoints whoever he wants in this case, and that person will serve until the next general election, which will be 2014. And then that person will have to run for election, so to speak, and then fill out the remainder of the term, which will be 2016. So whoever Governor Snyder appoints will have to run for election in 14 and then 16 if he or she wants to do that.
I wonder, it's too early to even guess who he might appoint.
There's a couple names.
Are there?
Well, yeah, the Republican insiders really want Colleen O'Brien, who ran in 2012 for the Supreme Court. You know, she ran across the state. She had television ads up. She was an aggressive candidate from Oakland County. She's a female. She's also got one of those Irish names that everybody's trying to get because they seem to always get an additional bounce. You know, and women candidates do really well. They do appeal to female voters. They seem to get 5% bounce. You know, obviously it didn't work for her in this last election, but there were a lot of females out there, and she wasn't an incumbent. And so, you know, she may do better. There's a few. The other thing is, too, governors always like to appoint from the Court of Appeals because then they get kind of this domino effect. Well, then they can replace an appointment to the Court of Appeals, and then they can replace somebody from the Circuit Court, you know, and so you go right on up the line. You get this domino effect. Curtis Wilder had thrown his name about early in the process back in 2011 as a possible Supreme Court candidate. The Republican brass decided they liked Colleen O'Brien a little better, but he's a possibility. Christopher Murray, he's another Court of Appeals judge in kind of that Detroit area. That's a possibility. Governor Snyder appointed Richard Boonstra from Dexter to the Court of Appeals this past year, and he could go ahead and just bounce him up to the Supreme Court. That would be somebody that he's, you know, had some stake into. So we'll go ahead and take a look, but, you know, there's certainly no shortage of possibilities.
Michael Lepp, are you astanished that he can pull these names out of, I mean, it's just
like
amazing.
a Rolodex.
I just wrote this yesterday.
Oh, okay.
I've got a good memory from yesterday.